Hey everybody, how you doing? In this episode, the mechanic comes back to finish the job, so I'm excited. Well, everybody hates delays in their life, so you can imagine how glad I was to see our mechanic finally coming back. Hey Brian, good to see you.
Good to see you too, sir.
Nice sunny day. It's a bit warmer out today.
A bit warmer. Very nice.
There's the damper plate there, the new one that came in.
Ooh, it's a different style.
But it's the same shape, it's good, I guess.
Yes, yes. This is my nephew, Chris.
Hey Chris, how you doing? My name is Vin. Good to see you. One of the things I love about our engine is that it has excellent access on both sides. For those of you who have a sailboat, how accessible is your engine? Please comment below.
A lot of people will go in and just replace stuff. Those set screws, there's no load being applied to those set screws.
Right, okay.
Set screw is merely preventing the collar from slipping on the shaft.
Right.
The other side of that is, there are those people out there who say, well, you're there, let's go ahead and replace it.
Problems are part of life, and certainly in sailing and boating and liveaboard life, I'm sure there had to be something that was not going to work out totally smooth.
The rear of the engine's going to have to come up.
Is that normal, or do we have a problem?
The rear of the engine's going to have to come up. So the transmission is actually a dropped angle, which means it's not coaxial, meaning that the crankshaft does not go straight into your propeller shaft.
Okay.
The way it goes is it's a drop down, so here's your crankshaft and here's where your propeller shaft is. Now they drop the angle down on the transmission down here, but it's still too low.
Right.
So we have to bring the crankshaft center line up to be in line with that. What I'm not sure of is, based on what I'm seeing, but we can pull the shaft up and we'll get a better look at it, is whether or not the entire engine actually has to come up.
Right.
Yeah, so this is actually on here backwards. This nut is technically supposed to be on the bottom side locking that down. Right. And then this locks down on that pad. It's not so much of a concern in this application because we're not dealing with high horsepower. All right, Chris, we gotta get these. Loosen up yours on your side. This transmission is actually a mechanical transmission, and the hydraulic fluid is merely lubricating the plates. So when you flip this lever sitting right here, you can actually put it in gear. So when you do that, there should be a direct drive across the board. When you put it in neutral, there still should be some drag to the transmission. The old transmission had no drag whatsoever. It was just constantly slipping, which meant that when it was engaged, it wasn't fully compressed. But that's why it failed. Clutches wore out. But like I said, this is a mechanical transmission, so when you put it in gear, it's going into gear. You don't have to worry about hydraulic pressure. Just you need the fluid there to cool, clean, and lubricate. After the first 50 hours that you run this transmission, drain the fluid and fill it back up again. Break-in period, because you're going to have clutch material in there. That's exactly how they all work. And then once the plates start mating with each other.
Mating? There's going to be mating?
That residual amount will actually decrease. we had to raise the engine up about a half an inch for it to line up with the new transmission's coupling. Once we installed that, we ran new throttle and shift cables, hooked all that up, verified that they worked properly, started the engine. Everything worked as it was supposed to, going in and out of gear. Did notice that there was a fuel leak on the top of the injection pump, which I have a piece of the shop, which we can put that right back on. As far as the raw water leak on the exhaust side, needs to be monitored to see if it's getting worse or if it was just a one-time deal. Other than that, the oil leaks for the transmission lines or for the engine lines, they were tightened. We got that to stop leaking, and everything seems to be in good working order.
I was very eager to take the boat out and to test not only the new transmission, but also the new control cables. Bearing left. Well, I don't know why the rear wasn't going. I'm going to try to reverse down. Hey, Brian. No, I can tell the aim. I know how to go. Doesn't feel right. We're going back in. Tell them we're going back in. I became concerned though, because normally when I turn the wheel to starboard to about 3 o'clock and put the gear in reverse, the boat naturally will turn to port, which is very advantageous, especially if you are in a position where you want that to occur. Then the boat can back up, turn to the port side, and then you can go forward, to the right, up and out. But in this case, the boat did not respond. It went slightly to port, but it was not responsive the way I had been used to for the past 2 years based on the previous transmission. So because the boat would not respond, and I saw that I was running out of room to be able to make that right turn, I decided to come back into the slip and take a look and see what was actually going on. Well, if you're not sure what just happened, basically we took the boat out and I just wasn't getting the power in reverse. Hey, Brian. How you doing? This is Vin over at Osprey. Hey, listen, I took the boat out and I'm not sure if it's the change in the ratio or there needs to be an adjustment on the control cable for the fuel. But instead of me going back out and taking Amy with me and having all kinds of stress, I'd like to pay you to come out for an hour with me and you can evaluate the fuel supply as we run the engine, and you can do any other testing that you want to do as far as temperature sensing and any compression tests, whatever you think is best for safety purposes. But yeah, I had difficulty getting the power up going in reverse, not so much in forward. So when can you come out with me this week for an hour and we'll take care of this? All right, I can do that. Okay, 8 a.m.? All right, great. Look forward to it. All right, thanks. Cool. All right, so the mechanic's going to come out with me and we'll do our little sea trial together. And I've never had a mechanic actually evaluate the engine while we're running. And on top of that, there was definitely a power shortage. I feel better now because he's going to come out and look at it with me and take care of it.